Let's talk about good neighbors, because I think of them as my best neighbors, my favorite neighbors. I love the lady next door, but love the Sasquatches more. Okay, so you remember that the stick? I told you I made my glyph, and I laid the X over the top of it. This was from the same week. Okay, a couple days later, I was out there. I wanted to clean up, just not just the regular spring cleanup. All the winter storm debris has to be raked up and burned, but I wanted to learn about glyphs. So while I'm cleaning up every single stick and twig on the ground, I'm explaining to them that I'm confused by the forest debris. How do you tell what's just a mess and what is a message? I need a clean slate. So I'm going to make sure that the ground in my yard is completely bare so we can have messages and I'll know that that's what it is. Okay, so I'm working on that. I told them that. My fire's getting kind of big. Time to take a break. Went in the cabin for not even 10 minutes. Sat down right next to the window that looks over the creek. Went back out, right back to where I was working. And there's this rock with yellow paint on it on the ground there. And I'm like, where the heck did that rock come from, I'm stepping over it, get my, pitchfork full of stuff. And about the third time I stepped over it, it's like, what the heck? Where did this come from? And I picked it up and I went, that's not paint. That's gold. Oh my gosh, that's gold. They were listening. This is a gift. Oh my gosh. They gave me a gold rock. Well, they gave me a lot of other things over the years. That was the first. So that was right about within days of when they put the X over my glyph. So then, first time I went over to the blues and I came back and I told them all about it. I went up the trail. I spent 20 minutes up there telling them about this life-changing events that I had experienced in this week. And then I come back and they had tucked this leaf into the handle of my car door right there. And it was also in July. Leaves aren't falling then, so this was a picked leaf. So then I got I got another leaf after another camp.
That's just two. That's two. There's purposeful.
That's another leaf, and then I got another leaf after another camp. And then so another thing about leaves, my dog Gabby died, and she was my squatching buddy. She was there with me for all my great experiences up behind the cabin, and then when she passed away, she had a lot of followers around the world, and everybody sent a rock. We put it on her grave. We had a little ceremony there at the cabin, and we decorated the yard with fall leaves, the vine maples. We went out and picked a bunch of them and made bouquets all around the yard to decorate for her memorial. And so as you can see how beautiful it was, right? So a couple days later, the bridge, the creek flows right past my cabin. The bridge is right there. I walk out and somebody else had used leaves to also decorate, I believe in honor of Gabby, her passing. So this is what I found a couple days after her memorial. That's Jack, our other dog. So they had gone through and all the signposts on the bridge. And this one here, the metal was pinched around the stem. It's a big leaf maple stem and sheet metal pinched around the little stem. So yeah, that was their way of acknowledging Gabby's passing. Beautiful, huh?
Yeah.
They have big hearts, very big hearts. So that one, you can see the sheet metal pinched. That's a big leaf maple stem that's in there, and that was in there for like 3 years. Every time I drove past, even when it had snow accumulating on it, it warmed my heart every single time I drove by and saw that stem sticking out of there. I'm okay now though. There's another view of it back in there. So they pulled that out, stuck it in. Okay, so then I went to the blues, every year, and a lot of camps. When I get home, I get a gift. There's some kind of a welcome home thing. Well, one of the things that they know I'm fond of slugs, you know, especially the banana slugs. They're just such a beautiful color. You know, you're out in the woods. They're amazing little creatures. I know not everybody gets into them, but I really like slugs. So then I get home from the blues. I'm doing my yard stuff. I go inside for 30 seconds, kicked my shoes off, came back out, and then I got my gift. So. You notice he didn't crawl in, and he's like, this is one of the brown European slugs that are very shy when they're disturbed. It takes them forever to uncurl, and he's leaked a lot of his own liquid there. He was just deposited as a little gift. So then another gift that I got was, I got to the blues when we were going from that camp, you know, where we had the vocalization to our other camp. I had a blowout on my tire. And you know, you can't just change one tire, you gotta buy all four, and Les Schwab wasn't open on a Sunday, so I had to wait in Walla Walla overnight. When I finally made it to camp the next day, I got up there and parked and said hi to everybody, went to go set up my tent, and the Sasquatch had acknowledged my new tires. So, this here is from our Greenwater camp. On setup day one day, this is where the handprint was that I showed you about, where the legs on the bank. So our friend Cindy, she was the person to watch camp while I was transporting things back and forth. So she has a sighting up on the hill, okay? She's sitting there, he's up on the hill. He's there and then he's gone. So then a little while, we got the potty tent set up. I go over, I'm setting up my tent, and I look across, and the potty tent is now completely unhooked. All the little clips on the back of it are unhooked. So, okay, go back over, fix the potty tent. Go back over to the group area. This is our garbage can. They took this branch and stuck it in the top of the can as like a liner. It has enough spring in it that it literally held the bag in place. So while we were fixing the potty tent, they did this.
Yeah, I know.
Good neighbors, huh? Good neighbors. Okay, so we're gonna see how really good they are here. So one of my biggest fears in life is, you know, I live under the trees, so when a windstorm comes, the trees fall, it freaks me out. And I'm not afraid of a lot of things in life, but I'm afraid of falling trees. So June, year before last, no windstorm, nothing happening, everything was fine. I wake up at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting upright in my bed and my eyes are open, and I'm looking at my dog and she's looking at me. Never before in my life have I ever woke up sitting upright with my eyes already open. And in my head I hear, don't try to run, you're just gonna run under it. Run under what? Why would I run? What? And then boom, the tree hits the cabin. So, yeah, there was no wind, there was no warning, but somebody knew that it was coming. Somebody woke me up. Somebody gave me a warning not to run, because if I had gotten up, I literally would have run right underneath where it came from. But as it was, it hit the roof up here very gently. It bumped a few things on a shelf in that room, and then it just settled down right here. There's not a single shingle messed up. This is a 100-year-old shack with no foundation, and it's fine. It is in perfect condition. So then, that was in June, and then in August, Penny's there, and we're sitting there in my yard, and I'm telling her about how grateful I was, how much gratitude I have in my heart to these people, to the forest people, the Sasquatch, for saving my cabin, for waking me up and making sure that we're all good. You know, so I began to call him the tree catcher. You know, he protected my home, he protected me and my dog. You know, and I'm sitting here by the fire right here, telling Penny how grateful I am. And in the moments that we're having this conversation, suddenly there's like sulfur in the air, like heavy sulfur, and it's like, wow, yeah, that's strong, that's sulfur. It's like, yeah, thank you, acknowledging our conversation there. Okay, so then the next night, we have Terry and Debbie and Lee showed up. So there's the 5 of us all sitting around the fire. So we start to tell them about what happened the night before, when I was sitting there telling Penny about how grateful I was that they saved my cabin. And the sulfur smell came back again. And it started right there with me and Penny, and then it made its way around our little group. Each person had a few moments with the sulfur smell, except for Terry, who also had a little bit of floral. So between her and Mama Sasquatch, I guess, so. But, yeah, so that was just a really another beautiful, beautiful gift. So I asked for the name of the tree catcher because it doesn't feel right, you know, just calling him that, right? So one day I'm up there walking on the road behind, right where the fairies had flown a camera. So I'm walking along and it's like, gosh, you know, it had been at least a few weeks, if not longer, since I had put out my request for the name and it hadn't come, so I'd kind of just forgotten all about it. I'm walking along and right over the edge of the road I hear, "Oochie-pop!" There's nobody there. Okay, and in my mind I'm like, first thing, how do you spell it? How do you spell it? I don't want to forget it. How do you sound it out? How do you spell it? But I didn't need to bother because it was stuck in my head. Oochie-pop! What is that? Is that a name? What is that? What does that mean? So I get back to the cabin and I Googled it. Ahoon is the name of a lord in a video game, and Japa means to vanish instantly. Oh, Japa. Okay, so I talked to a few different psychics that I know, and they both confirmed for me that that was the name. That's his name. That maybe not the name he was given, but it was the name that he chose for me to use for him. So now that tells us a couple things there. First of all, he acknowledges what was happening. He acknowledged that I asked for the name, but it also acknowledges that they can get into our technology and they know exactly what we know. They can, when I'm on my phone and I send a message to somebody and I get a little extra, something comes along, it's like, oh yeah, knock right outside the window. They know the message I'm sending. They know our video games, they know our media, they have access to all of these things. So they're not just some dumb monkey in the woods. There's a whole lot more to them going on than that. So a little more time goes by. And I got to see him. So this is right after one of the campouts. I'm at the trailhead with Gabby or Goldie. We're starting to walk up, and right on the other side of the creek, there's two sounded like huge sticks, like snap, snap. Stop, look, nothing there. Nobody's around. Walk another 20, 30 feet. Snap, snap. Nobody's there. Don't see anything. Keep walking. At this point, the trail starts to bend away from the creek going into the woods. And as I start to bend away, I turned and I looked back over my shoulder, and he was on the other side of the creek. And I got to see him just for an instant. By the time I turned completely around, he wasn't there anymore. But the main thing that I think that he wanted me to see, that my eyes focused on, were his hands. His hands were so huge. They were just like, that had my full attention. In those seconds that it took me to turn and see him, I didn't notice a head. It was just a bump on his shoulders. You know, other than the color, the size, my full focus was his hands. And to me, this is the tree catcher. This was a hunjapa. So.
Do you know kind of how tall you might be?
I would say at least 15 feet.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. Because when we go up the trail, you'll be able to recognize, I know it's not much, but you'll know what branch it is there when I point it out. So, but if you would like to read more about these things, they're all in here. There's going to be another book coming out that's going to be telling you about all the stuff that happens when we go camping. This is mostly just the things that happen around the cabin, and how it'll walk you from my journey of thinking that these are just an undiscovered form of wildlife to knowing that they are so much more than we could ever imagine. So if you'd like to have a book, I'd be happy to sign it for you. So, yes. Thank you very much.